absolutely raucous. Glastonbury did panels. I think this is what it would be like. So as he said, I'm Tom from Sifted, the managing editor at Sifted. We're a FT-backed publication covering European tech, startups and VC. And for the next 18 minutes and 20 seconds, we'll be entertaining you in conversation with Aune Aunapuu of Yaga. Before we get into everything, do you want to introduce yourself and what your company does?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Aune. I'm founder of Yaga. Yaga is a second-hand fashion marketplace with a focus on African markets. We first piloted in Estonia, but as everybody knows, Estonia is a super small market with 1 million people. There is no point in building a marketplace for Estonia only. So today, our biggest market is South Africa. And numbers-wise, we are at over 1 million users, and over 5 million second-hand items have been sold on Yaga, which makes me really happy because these are the 5 million items people didn't buy brand new from the store. So for me, everything, like the purpose of Yaga is the sustainability. Yeah.
Amazing. Before we go back to the early days and your origin story, there is a QR code on the big screen there. If you do have any questions that come up during the next 70 minutes or so, please do send them in via the QR code, and I can pick up the best ones here. So, Aune, 5 million items sold through your marketplace. Take us back to before item 1 was sold. What's your origin story? How did you get involved in all of this?
The item 1 was actually my kid's stroller that I was trying to sell in Facebook Marketplace. At the time, when I started Yaga, I was actually home with 2 kids. They were like 1 year old, 3 years old. And my former career had been in environmental consulting. But somehow I knew that I want to start something new. I just didn't know what. So I was just randomly thinking that I will sell this stroller, I will make some money, I need some room to my home. So I went to Facebook Marketplace and thought that it's going to be a super easy experience. Mm-hmm. I believe many of you have seen those funny Instagram stories, and I know there are stand-uppers who have made like sketches about their experience in Facebook. It's like 1 million questions that you will receive and actually no transaction. So this was what happened to me. It was so painful. I got 27 friends writing to me and asking those questions. I didn't sell the stroller, and I couldn't stop but thinking that why is person to person buying and selling online? It's like a stone age. It's a conversational. You cannot do it. But at the same time, if you go to H&M or any other e-commerce, you just click the button and it's in the locker next day. So that's kind of the spark, the idea. And fast forward, speaking with the co-founders, validating that there's potential based on the Estonian market first. We launched Yaga in Estonia after 6 months.
So obviously there are other companies in Europe that sort of work on second-hand fashion, your Vintage, your Depop's, your Vestiaire collectives. Tell us about the decision to launch a pilot in Tallinn, and then how you ended up after that focusing on the South African market. Tell us about that pilot and the journey from there.
I think, well, Estonian startup culture is so strong. There were so many big names already there. So the startup, there was a saying at some point in Estonia that everybody's doing a startup or a stand-up. So it was the exciting sector. Estonia, yeah. So Estonia was a very logical choice. It's also where I'm from. It's a small market. It's super tech savvy. It's easy to test here. So if you're an entrepreneur, test in Estonia. It flies. But the next markets, we knew that from the day one, there is no point in building for Estonia only. So from day one, we started looking for, so what are the other regions, other markets that we can expand to? Like you mentioned, Europe had pretty strong players at that time. So we understood that, okay, we don't want to compete. So can we go to the markets next where we can be the first movers, like Vinted was the first mover in 2008 something when they started in Europe. So this left us Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and there are, I could spend this whole 30 minutes speaking about why Africa, but long story short, it's many English-speaking countries. It's in the same time zone. It operationally makes launch so much easier. And also the growth potential of these markets, like in South Africa, 60 million people, internet penetration rates, all the growth rates are going up. And the competitive landscape, comparing Estonia to South Africa, it was very similar. There was Facebook Marketplace. There was an old school classifieds platform. Every country has them. It's like the legacy. And there was nothing in between. So we saw that we can go with Yaga, which is mobile first, dedicated to fashion, targeting younger audience, and do what Vinted, Depop, and Vestiaire had done in Europe and go there. So, but of course, it wasn't like days of analysis and a lot of Excels. And it was like our attitude was like, sounds good, let's go. And in my life at that time, I was also traveling in South Africa. My friend got married there, and I met my second co-founder in South Africa, who's also Estonian, which is a funny story. But it was kind of the moment when the stars aligned, that we were there, we were like walking around, and it felt like our market. So we're like, let's do it and see what happens, because you have to experiment first. And you don't know if it flies or it doesn't, and for that you really need to do it.
And it flew.
It flew. It flew in South Africa. The timing was perfect when I now look back, because we launched a few months before COVID, early 2020, and the whole society was pushed online. And even South Africans at that time, they were not buying online that much. Then after COVID hit, after April, they were pushed online. So basically, our charts also started to going up, and also it felt like South Africans had been waiting for this kind of platform for a really long time. We didn't have to introduce the concept. They knew what it was, so they picked it up.
And talk me through the lessons you learned from sort of scaling the platform. How did you tweak the product? How did you grow the team? Like, talk us through that.
Yes, we at first you start with an MVP. It's a super simple. We even didn't have search functionality. It was like super simple. But the first problem you face when you launch a marketplace, it's like it's kind of ready, but it's empty. It's like an empty nightclub. Nobody's there. You want to get out. This is not working. So the first challenge we had is, how do we get the supply? How do we get the first listings? And of course, at first you list your own items, as many as you can. Even in South Africa, we listed our own items. It's like kind of fake items. Don't tell anyone. But in the beginning, to get the first supply, we did the things that actually don't scale. We went back to Facebook Marketplace. We approached the sellers there one by one, saying, this is Yaga, payment is here. You don't have to worry about the trust issue. You have order management here. It's so much easier. So it was one by one activity. And when they started listing on Yaga, we started distributing the same listings back to Facebook Marketplace to bring the traffic, because we didn't have any money. It was like a bootstrap version, how to find ways to scale and grow, and then get investment to prove that it is working. And then of course you have to. We started. In the beginning, I was also like naive, like, why do I need a team? I can do everything myself. It's like you don't know what you don't know. So hiring the right people, the right talent at the right time, who are stage appropriate. This has been the key to the growth also, because I understood very quickly that it's not possible to do it alone. You need right talent to the right places. So yeah, but hiring and firing, that's also, it's always, I think, for every founder, there can be painful lessons.
So how, talk to me about some of those lessons, because I'm not sure if you had experience of hiring, firing before in your old role, but I also have that experience at Sifted. We're 6 years old when I joined the company 3 years ago. I was managing more people than I had before. I was hiring more people than I had before. And yeah, you're right. It's a really painful thing to go through when you haven't done it before as a manager. Do you want to talk us through like how you went about that and the lessons you learned from that?
Yes, I had done it before, but very little.
Yeah.
Very little experience in terms of that. And my evolution kind of was that I can hire myself fast, where now I hire with a recruiter with the help, because it's not possible to do it. My thinking was that it takes little time. Actually, took a lot of time, and I think the painful lessons were that I didn't understand what I really want this person to do, and didn't communicate it in the way that that we are aligned. And we learned down the road that no, actually it's not that. But you get better with every hire you make. Yeah.
I want to get into something we were speaking about off stage, which is, and this is really, really interesting, the sort of operating in the South African market, scaling there. Your pilot was obviously in Tallinn. Like, talk to me about the different consumer behaviors in both countries, and how that influences the product, sort of maybe some of the surprising things you discovered from operating in South Africa as well on the platform.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Yes, so we thought it's very different, but to be honest, it isn't that different. Everybody wears clothes. They have the same needs. The motivation in both countries to use Yaga, to sell and buy secondhand, is the same. From the seller side, you want to earn money. From the buyer side, you want to save. So the generic user behavior, this is similar. But what we discovered is that in the comparison of Estonia and South Africa, Estonians, you rarely want to communicate with each other or anyone on the platform, or even in the real life. You want to do your own thing. So ideal experience in Estonia, for Estonian in Yaga, is that you find an item, you buy it, you get it delivered, that's it. But what we discovered in South Africa was that there was a lot of going on in the chats. And it wasn't that the item was not well described or there was information missing. We understood that they just want to communicate with each other. They want to know who is selling that item, up until to the point where we started discovering that they make friends on Yaga. So it was like, we didn't expect that. And it also actually happened with our customer support, that Yaga is a product, it's a consumer product, it's very intuitive. You click add item, you click purchase, there's no manual you need to use it. But we started getting also emails to our customer support that, how do I sell? How do I buy? And we were like, really, what do you mean how? You just click the button. But we understood that this communication piece, that you want to validate who's behind the business. Is it the real one? Is it a legit app? This is also what the question we got. So the human connection before you make the transaction in South Africa, it's very different than what we see in Estonia. And that was surprising. And one more thing about South Africa, the hustling culture. This is what we don't see here, but there you want to make money. And it's no surprise, because the unemployment rate among youth is over 40%. So everybody's looking for ways to make money, and it's beneficial for Yaga, because you don't only sell your own personal items, but you also source the items from offline markets. You make a business out of it. So Yaga is like a private person's Shopify. It's an e-commerce channel, and that's good for us.
We were also speaking about how, obviously, it's a really nice thing to discover that people are using the platform to talk to each other and making friends, and also meeting sort of off the platform as well. And we were talking about how that's obviously a really nice touch, but also what that can lead to is people then maybe buying and selling their secondhand clothes between themselves off the platform. Like, how do you, instead of staying on the platform, how do you think about that?
Well, we would like to keep them on the platform, because this is how we make money as a business. So if everybody goes out, then that's not good. But to be honest, there are means to stop people from going outside the platform. I think every marketplace is struggling with that. Airbnb, all the marketplaces we know. But we are rather thinking, what is the value we bring, so that buyers and sellers would not want to leave the platform. And one of the values we bring, the core of Yaga, is actually building trust and being the mediator between the payments. Otherwise, going back to this Facebook Marketplace example, you have two strangers who have to agree in a chat who sends the money first or who sends the buyer first. And there is so much scam, especially in African markets. So Yaga is this mediator, and when you leave Yaga, you get scammed outside, you come back to Yaga support and say that I got scammed, help me. There's nothing we can do. So these are the painful lessons our users have learned, and then they don't want to leave. But of course we cannot I'm not hoping everybody to get scammed outside, but rather as Yaga is free of charge for sellers, there is not much information, much motivation to go outside after all. So I don't see that as like a big issue for us.
And as a consumer business, your whole thing is built on that trust, right, as well. And if you can develop that sort of reputation among sort of consumers in your market,
they have to trust us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a few minutes left. I want to talk about what's next for you. I have a question here from someone in the audience, Carl, who's asked, what is your take on the emerging trend of sort of renting designer clothes, companies operating in that space? Is that something you have an opinion on? Is that something you're exploring?
Well, we see this as a business opportunity, but completely different segment. So the beauty of Yaga's model today is that we do not touch any inventory. The transaction, the item is purely in the hands of the buyer and the seller. This makes our business very light. So if we would consider renting, or even I know the business models like ThreadUp is doing in US, is like, and Sellpy in Sweden. You buy the items, you iron them, wash them, make pictures, and you then make the curated marketplace. But these are not the models we would like to go into, because I think the beauty of Yaga, Vinted, Depop is that each seller, each user has the individual motivation to speak about their shop. So our organic traffic comes from the network effect. And if we would like rent or buy, there wouldn't be that kind of network effect. So we are a network effect business. So this is for others. Let's put it that way.
So what is next for you?
Sorry?
What is next for you? What's next for Yaga?
What is next for us? Next for us is expansion, like a geographical expansion. We recently opened Kenya. So how we are positioning ourselves is that we are in Africa and MENA, and we're looking into North Africa, Dubai, Middle East, etc. So currently also fundraising to open more markets in that region, to grow, to spread the sustainability message, because for me, the sustainability is the actual purpose. It's not the purpose for the buyer and seller who make the transaction mostly, but it's something that happens. It's a choice that happens that makes good. So.
And geographically, where is your team? How are you thinking about expanding the team and sort of expanding? Also, if there's anything on the product side as well that you're thinking about.
Yeah. Team-wise, we are 25 people only, and we are like extremely. I didn't mention it, but we have raised only 3 million euros. We're like extremely capital efficient and profitable at the same time. So, and still growing 80% annually. So we're like a lean mean machine. And core team is in Tallinn, the headquarters is Tallinn, but we think ourselves as a remote-first company. So I actually have talent from Germany, from Spain, from Bulgaria, and also from South Africa. And as we expand, I see that in each country, we should have at least few people who are launching the market, who are localized in years. But I believe that the core functions should be like headquartered, because otherwise all the teams will be, let's say, competing with the budget, and that's not for the interest of the company.
Amazing. We are at time,
so
gosh. I'm gonna wrap us up. But Aune, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone.